Yeah. I think that the reason why we often lose the awe of this is that we get the incarnation wrong. And I think that's what a lot of people sitting in the pews do. They hear about it. They hear about the incarnation. They may not even know what that word means.
Yeah, after the sermon, I kicked myself in the rear because I realized I forgot to define incarnation. I think I briefly just brought up, John 1:14, because we had read it in the scripture reading, but I didn't go in depth on that.
Yeah. Well, you want to define it now?
As simple as can be. I always think of going to a Mexican restaurant and you get carne asada. It's meat.
Right.
Basically, incarnation is meat or in the flesh, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. God came, he incarnated, he became in the flesh.
Yeah.
I wish I'd said that in the sermon.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we hear that word so often. It's like you said, Christmas rolls around. It's Christmas time again. We're going to hear about Jesus born in a stable, laid in a manger. We're going to hear these things, and we get so used to it that we forget exactly what is happening. And I think that people, we look at that, the state of theology study that comes out from Ligonier every couple of years, and we see that Christians, they don't understand what the incarnation is. It's so traditional that we forget to actually think deeply about this.
Yeah.
Christmas becomes this cutesy thing, and we forget this is the eternal Son of God, laying aside his glory, not laying aside his divinity, but laying aside his glory, clothing it in the weakness, the frailty of a man, with all of our needs and limitations. We were talking at the dinner table yesterday with Phineas. He was asking some questions about the incarnation. Could Jesus have spoken as an infant if he had wanted to? That's a question that a 7-year-old is going to ask, but he wouldn't have, because he took on humanity.
Right.
He was an infant. He wasn't fully developed mentally, and his motor skills had to develop, and he made baby noises.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's really the incarnation is a mystery, and we're meant to stand in awe and wonder at it.
Yeah.
And one question that Brooke asked me yesterday is, when did Jesus realize that he was God?
Yeah.
And people think that's a heretical question, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Because his brain had to go through a process of development.
Right.
He had to learn to talk. Then he learned to read. And there was a time where his mind became fully developed, and he realized that he was the Messiah, who he was, that he was the Son.
Yeah.
The incarnate Word.
Yeah. And there is a mystery there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we get that answer. Like in our pride, I guess.
Yeah.
We want those answers, and we expect that we're going to receive those answers. And there are mysteries in the Bible that you just have to accept it. Here is the incarnate Son of God, and we don't have all the answers to all the little details that we want.
It really gets at what you said earlier about the humility of it,
Right.
that the eternal,
Right.
he knows all.
Yeah.
And now his knowing, or his mind, is bound by our human frailty.
Yeah.
And that he's been humiliated to the point where he would have to go through the process of learning like a human.
Right.
It really is almost degrading, is it not, to think about it that way?
Yeah. And we want to make it. We want to make him a super genius.
Yeah.
Right. We want to make him so that he knows all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what we expect. We expect him to know mathematical formulas and scientific theories and know all of this stuff.
Right.
I love that example that you learned from one of your
Oh man.
your professors
Uh-huh.
about if you'd gone up to, if you were able to travel back in time to see Jesus sitting on the the shore of the Sea of Galilee, and you'd come up and ask him all these questions, and what Jesus's response would be.
Yeah. He just turns at you and just stares at you blankly because he doesn't speak English.
Right. He doesn't.
He never doesn't
So
know. He
good.
doesn't speak English. English doesn't even exist yet, right?
Right.
So he doesn't speak English. Of course, that's in his humiliated state. In his glorified state, of course, we know that he knows English.
Right.
Right.
You know, he's glorified and resurrected. He knows all things.
Right.
But it is strange to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's again, it almost it is degrading, and we should see it that way because we're talking about God taking on human, even though he's sinless still.
Right.
It should be seen as, how could God do that for us?
Yeah.
To do that, I mean, but we're so familiar with it that we just think, of course God took on human. He became a man.
Right.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
That's the story, and why wouldn't he? Because we actually deserve that he would do that for us.
Mm-hmm.
When the exact opposite is true.
Yeah.
That we didn't deserve for him to do that at all.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a good point. I really enjoyed that first point, helping us to refocus that God.
And it's one of those points that the more you meditate upon it, the more you accomplish that effect of being in awe of it.
Yeah.
If you just hit it and move on and don't think about it, like you said, we just stay in that familiarity. But if you think about it more and more, I mean, even just sitting here talking with you guys, and new angles to it pop up, it really is an awesome thing that the eternal Son of God would take on these limitations.
Yeah.
For our sake.
Mm.
Like, he's not doing this as some kind of experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what this is like. Try this out.
Right.
Like, he does it for us. He clothes himself with humility so that he can identify with us, so that he can represent us on the cross.